Well, a lot's happened in the first 100 days, but believe it or not, it has been only 100 days since Bill de Blasio took office here. And a new poll shows that nearly half of New Yorkers are happy with the work he's done, although some folks say it's a mixed bag. Today, he delivers his own progress report. And today, the Civil Rights Summit in Austin, Texas wrapped up with a moving speech from the president. And our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman, was there on the ground. We're going to have a look at highlights from the event, plus a one-on-one that Andrew has with Jesse Jackson, plus a promise that was never delivered. Low-income families were forced out of their homes in the 60s and told that they could come back. Never happened. The lot they lived on leveled and kept vacant for, get this, 47 years. 20 acres on the Lower East Side never developed. Was it a calculated move by Shelley Silver and Bill Raffogel? Well, we're speaking to the Times reporter who broke the story. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We have all that, plus some New York politics from folks who know at this table. We've got a lot coming up this Thursday evening, April 10th, so thanks for joining us. Well, today it marks de Blasio's first 100 days in office, and despite criticism over his chronic tardiness and push for universal pre-K that did or didn't happen, depending on who you listen to, today the mayor said he remains optimistic about the political road that lies ahead. And we spoke about some new proposals and his mission to close the inequality gap.
Restoring a progressive New York, that's our vision, and it's what's driven the steps we take, and it's what drives the steps we will take ahead together.
Now, in that speech from Cooper Union, de Blasio said his next months in office would also focus on creating affordable housing and overhauling Superstorm Sandy recovery funds. Now, efforts, I should say. Earlier today, I spoke with Capitol's senior City Hall reporter, Ozzy Pebara. You know, today in the mayor's address, he said the great strides have been made in the first 100 days. It's a complicated picture to put into a letter grade here, but how do you think versus what was projected and what we've seen of reality the first 100 days have gone for the new mayor?
I mean, there's clearly been some distractions, some bumps in the road, and some setbacks. But if you're the new mayor, you got the streets cleaned, you got universal pre-K that is getting underway. It's not funded exactly as you wanted it, but more or less you're getting more of what you want than what you don't want. And you still have a lot more in front of you that seems to be going in your direction.
You know, I get and I think it's been pretty clear that his platform that he ran on, that he won on, income inequality, progressive city, he certainly communicated that. But even if you take the universal pre-K, what if you're a person who didn't listen to any of the chatter for the last 3 months, you'd say, wow, the mayor got that, that's a victory. But he was so outmaneuvered on messaging, not just with this, but with so many things, it almost seemed that it was a defeat versus what he wanted and versus what he got. After the fact, he tried to, wave the pom-poms, but you ask the average person, they say the governor got what he wanted, not the mayor.
The governor has a disproportionate amount of power to dictate the terms of the debate and what actually happens in New York City, but it's the mayor that commands so much more attention just by the very nature that city government is the one that's in contact with New Yorkers on a regular basis. In terms of de Blasio's signature issue of wanting to tax the rich in order to fund expanded education services, it was the governor who opposed it. He had allies in the state legislature who opposed it. The mayor wanted it. The mayor didn't get it done. But it was the mayor who even put that issue forward and forced state lawmakers to even deal with it. So in a sense, the mayor established the fact that he, like his predecessor who had endless amounts of money, are able to tell state lawmakers, this is what you're going to be grappling with. But it's the lawmakers at the end of the day that get to say whether or not it happens.
You know, I'm curious. You're much closer to this than I am. This is your beat. I've heard two different versions as to the problems with messaging for this mayor. One is that the communications team may not be ready for prime time here, or it's that the message may be all right, but the messenger either can't stay on it or doesn't help himself with all the ancillary stories of speeding through the red lights, the snowstorms, being late for everything here, right, or it makes it tough for them to do their job. Which one do you think it's more of?
I do acknowledge it, and I even think people within City Hall will acknowledge that there is a messaging problem. But I think it is coming about for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we are dealing with the mayor who not many people expected to win. Today's the 100th day of his administration. Also, 1 year ago today, the New York Times published their front cover story in their magazine about Anthony Weiner. And he was the celebrity candidate who people thought was going to be a leading contender, and we saw where he ended up. So a lot has really changed. What the people around Bill de Blasio will sort of talk about is that they beat conventional wisdom. And therefore, when they hear criticisms about what they're doing, they, in a way, can look back and say, we beat conventional wisdom before, we're hearing a lot of that same chatter now, we can dismiss it, we beat it once before. Secondly, and this is what Andrew Cuomo has sort of demonstrated on the state level, is that if you can try to have the long view and get the right headline, if you can get past the day of story, that New Yorkers walk away with a different impression if they see things in their own life changing. Governor Cuomo has always said, you know, government is not a debate society. De Blasio's version of that is to sort of dismiss these day of stories and distractions and stay purely focused on the task at hand.
To that end of the day-to-day, the mayor having a different view of it than a lot of his predecessors, does that run risks? And I know this sounds inside baseball, but you know, Ozzie, there's a lot of the press corps that covers this mayor and his administration that after 100 days, they're not huge fans here, and they almost are looking for a reason to get the mayor on certain things. Was that a miscalculation from this administration? And again, this is how the public gets their headlines. So if it's a stupid thing like going through a red light here, or how he handles a snowstorm, or whatever some of these other stories, they take on life of their own, whether the mayor likes it or not.
Well, right, and that's the thing. If there's a general idea that is not immediately addressed, and it sticks around for another day or another week, you become a caricature, and then you need these bigger events to help reset the narrative. But what the mayor has to deal with is the reality that he does not get to dictate what the press writes about, but has to manage it. And what Michael Bloomberg and his team had sort of done very well is acknowledge something very early on at times and sort of address it.
Ozzie, you know, It's funny. The biggest issue that we knew this mayor would inherit hasn't even really come up yet, and that is the slew of contracts that he's got to deal with the unions. Is there a chance that on how outmaneuvered the mayor got from the governor as it related to charter schools, that there are folks on the other side of the negotiating table who say, you know what, this guy's not ready for prime time. We're going to hold out maybe for a different deal than we thought, depending on how he pulled whatever political levers he would have in the first few months? Are people reading some of these that differently, and will it play out maybe differently when they get to the bargaining table?
I think what has to be understood in terms of these contracts is that not every union is looking for the same thing. And what I mean by that is that there are some unions that say purely, we need more money in our paychecks, end of story. There are other unions that certainly would like more money, but have other issues that are also serious that relate to how they perform their jobs and the rules around it. And there's been a change in direction about this mayor compared to the last one, about how teachers are going to be evaluated and also retained. These teachers had to operate under Joel Klein and Dennis Walcott in the previous administration that very much focused on student test scores and evaluating teachers and getting rid of bad ones. If this mayor can work on changing some of the work rules, those teachers might settle for a smaller increase compared to some of their other colleagues in the union field. So while this mayor had some missteps, there's a slightly more complicated landscape as to all the different contracts that are before him, and he may not need to open his wallet in the same way for each and every one of them. But then again, not many people are going to turn down more money if it's offered.
No, they will not. Ozzie, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I want to bring in our panel tonight. We're joined by, of course, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, but as we like to say, so much more. Jonathan Yedden, Democratic consultant with the Advance Group and a former executive director for the Kings County Democratic Party, and Republican strategist Bill O'Reilly, the good one, who served as Astorino spokesman in his two successful runs for Westchester County executive. And we'll be talking about Rob's quest for the big job in New York, the race for governor, in a little bit. But let's start in New York City. And Ozzie, your old colleague, Dom, I was asking him, in some ways, if the mayor spun things differently, just the way things went, forget about how they could have gone, but if he just handled the things differently, could there be a perspective like, wow, this guy got universal pre-K in the city, instead of, well, the governor got his way and he didn't get his 5 years and he didn't get the tax on the rich and everything else. It's almost perception is his problem more than even reality.
You hit my point exactly on the head where I was going with this. This mayor, based on his accomplishments thus far, if he had just worked on his message a little more in terms of how he was going to shape taking on the 800-pound gorilla, in this case being Governor Andrew Cuomo, then he could have walked out of this with flying colors, with polling showing him around 60% approval. So the polling currently at about 49%, I believe, approval.
Yeah.
That's about accurate. It's been a mixed bag. Once he gets the message thing down, he might do quite well.
However, what I'm trying to get, Jonathan, is you've got a guy who got elected. You can debate the mandate or not, whatever. Okay, but still, 70% of the vote, 70% of the vote. And there was at least a clear message that he said, listen, you elect me, I'm the progressive guy. This is what I'm going to do. Like it or not, that was his plan. And it was more clear than a lot of guys who've come in. But it seems like it's the little stuff that keep dragging him down, going through the traffic light the day after he says, you know, what he's going to do on road safety. It's calling the precinct house directly instead of having somebody else call about a connected bishop that was sitting there. And there's more of it. The snowstorm handling. Where do you put the blame on that? Is that staff or is that him?
It's staff, and it's just growing pains that come with the job. I mean, arguably, it's like the #2 most powerful position, the most scrutinized position after the presidency in all of America. More more scrutinized than the governor because it's New York City focused, and the media is just nonstop. So yeah, I mean, listen, it takes a little bit of time.
You've worked enough with folks. I know it's only 100 days, but if you keep showing up late for stuff, and a lot of people show up late for stuff, but you become a punchline. And you're starting to get the New York media against you. And he'll tell you, once you get them against you, it's hard to bring them back. You keep doing it. And you almost do it with a thumb in the eye to it. There does seem to be either a lack of calculation or just an indifference, but that's not healthy.
No, it's not. And I think he realizes that. I know they're searching for a director of their entire communications operation. They should bring somebody in because they need somebody. There's no question. You take a look on the merits, though, what he's done over the past 100 days. I mean, UPK is a big deal. Nobody was talking about it before he did on the campaign trail. And okay, he didn't get it the way he wanted to with the tax.
No, he should claim victory and say move on, but instead he fought, and it made it look like...
Well, but you know what, though? What's happened now? You hear the WFP might not be supporting Governor Cuomo because of the scars coming out of this. You're hearing NICE, the teachers union, might not be supporting him. He's doing his things his way. Ultimately, they might end up at the same place. They might both be victorious in future electoral campaigns, but... He is the hard.
And Bill,
he's
the last
the
big thing
progressive.
is the contract.
Yeah,
right?
well, he's also learned the lesson. I mean, I think you're right. Governor Cuomo never spoke about UPK beforehand. He never spoke about charter schools. He had no interest in them, and he came in and made Mayor de Blasio look like a jerk. And I think it's right, though. I think it's just you come into that job. That's tough. Mayor Giuliani, when he first came in '93, had a hard time rolling out. Mayor Bloomberg had a hard time in the first few weeks. It's a really tough job. I mean, I disagree with Mayor de Blasio ideologically, but I think he'll get there as a person, as a personality.
And they won't have snowstorms, thankfully, to deal with for
exactly.
the next 100 days. Knock on wood. Okay, coming up next, everybody, we will head out to Austin, Texas, where today the president wrapped up a 3-day civil rights summit. It's been 50 years, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act. We're going to have the latest here from Andrew Whitman, a senior political correspondent on the ground. We heard from President Clinton yesterday, President Obama today. You'll hear from them both. And Andrew spoke one-on-one with Jesse Jackson as well. Stay with us.